Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Introduction to Web Development. Now in this episode we're going to be talking about images in our websites. Now with images we do two things really. We do the first step in the HTML and the second step usually in the CSS. So of course the first step is our HTML. We basically say where is the image, like what are we actually showing, and then we also give some alt text. So like if the image can't load for some reason, tell the user like what the image was supposed to be. And then in HTML we can also like make images links, as you can see here. And then the second step kind of with images is usually in the CSS or the styling of it, where we can give it a width and a height, or we can give it a border radius, aka we can make the images like curved or have rounded corners. And of course there's other stylings that we can apply, but in this video we're mainly going to be going over these basic ones. So to go ahead and get started, you want to open up VS Code as before, and if you don't remember, go ahead and go File, Open Folder, and then open the folder that contains your code. And then we are going to go ahead and jump into the HTML. So on the last episode we left off here. We talked about basic styling. We have this style.css here where we have all of these styles. Now if we click on the index.html and then go to this Go Live button down here and click that, it should open up our website. So this is what we had from the previous episode. And I'm going to go ahead and delete a good portion of this. Or actually, you know what? No, we're going to keep most of this code just as a reference. And of course, whenever I do happen to delete code, just remember that usually, say like I delete all the code from the previous episode, you can go ahead and go over to the GitHub, which is linked in the description. It says like all the code in my videos, and then it'll take you to this website. In fact, let me go ahead and actually just go there right now. So yeah, there's a link that comes here, and it takes you to this website here, and then when you hit View Code, you can see the Intro to Web Development series, and then there was also the JavaScript for Beginners series. And if you open that up, you can see all of the code in the videos like this. And that's just for you to mainly follow along if you get behind. So once we have our website open here, we're going to introduce images. So of course the first step to putting images in our website is finding an image to put in the first place. And luckily I've prepared a link. One good way to find images is just to search Google. You just go to Google and then search something and then type images, and it'll bring up all of these images. Now the way to actually put this in your website is you usually want to click on the image itself, and then this little panel will show up on the side. And to actually see like where to get the image, you want to right click it, and then you want to hit either Open Image in New Tab, this works usually, or right click and then Copy Image Address also works. So I'm going to do that, right click, copy image address, and then usually that's the exact same thing as when you open the image in a new tab. And then now that you have that copied, you want to come here to your index.html. So we're going to start off by creating an image tag right at the beginning of our body. And an image is another one of those special tags that is self-contained, meaning we don't have an image and then a slash image, because there is nothing that would go inside an image, if you know what I mean. While like these tags that generally have like opening and closing have stuff that goes inside, there is nothing that you can put inside an image, at least in HTML. So of course the image, because it's a self-closing tag, it'll have this slash before you close it, and then that is the main tag definition. Now the image tag actually does have a couple of attributes, and if you don't remember what attributes are, you can go ahead and watch the previous episode where we talked about like what element attributes are. But in a nutshell, they are simply like we give it, for example, a class. That's the name of the attribute, and then we put an equals and then a double quote, and then that's the value inside the attribute. Now the image has two main attributes. You give it a source attribute, src, and this is actually telling our HTML where to find the image, like where the image is located. It could either be on your computer or it could be on the web, like this image that we're using. And then we want to use another attribute called alt, and that is basically if the image cannot load, it'll display some text instead, basically saying what is this image about. So we're going to take that URL that we copied right here, or remember right click and then copy image address. We're going to paste it right here into source and save. Now if we come to our website, I'm going to zoom out a bit. Notice that the image is here in all its glory. And there actually are some black bars. You can't see that here, but you can see them kind of right here. So that's normal. The black bars are part of the image itself. That's nothing to do with our code. And so that is how we get that image onto our site. Now let's just say we actually can't render it. Let's throw some random text in there and it just goes away. And then you'll notice there's this like weird image, and that's like a placeholder. But if we give it an alt, say image not found, and actually the problem here is this website here, when we give it some random stuff, it actually gives us an image. It gives us this image not found image. So I'm going to change the website and save that. And then now you can see, and if I save this, whoops, it says image not found, and then there's a little like broken image icon. And that's because we put image not found here. If I remove the alt, it'll just disappear basically. And if that's what you want, then you can leave out the alt, of course. But we can just say picture of hello world. And then as you see here, it's not loading, so it just says picture of hello world. Now, of course, if we copy that image address again and we repaste it in as the correct one and save, it will now show up as this huge image. So that is the basics of like actually getting an image to show up and getting its source and its alt. Now we can actually use images as links, and I'm gonna actually defer this to another video because I just realized we haven't really talked about links yet, and that will be covered in a video coming up soon. And basically we can make it so that when you click on an image it takes you somewhere, like to a different website or to a different page. But of course we're going to defer this for now. Now we're going to get straight to styling for images. So the main styles are width and height and then border radius, and we are going to have to create a selector for the image first. So if you'll remember here, in order to style these H1s, we had to give them classes and IDs. For example, we gave them all a class headings and then ID red welcome. For this image, we can go ahead and give it an ID like, and then we can give it like an ID of header image. And remember, for naming these, you want to have them all lowercase and then put a dash in between different words. And that's just the naming case. In JavaScript, it's different. Remember, we covered camel case where like it's all one word, there's no dashes, except the first letter is capitalized. So there's various different naming cases in code, but for CSS selectors, we normally do this. So once we have the ID equals header dash image, we can come in here to our style.css from the last video. And if you missed that, we basically added this link, rel equals style sheet, href equals style.css, and that's how we can use this file to give our website style. So if you remember, we can select IDs by doing a hash symbol. So since our image here has an ID of header dash image, we can come into the CSS and do a hash header dash image. And then that is basically saying we want to edit the styling of our image. And then we can give it a width of 20 pixels. And notice that made it very small. So let's just give it a width of like 300 pixels. There we go. That's a little bit more reasonable. And now we can see the image is actually like a reasonable size. And of course, we can actually kind of like distort the image if we also give it a height. Because by default, if we only give it a width or only give it a height, it will automatically set the other one to make it in the same aspect ratio. But if we give it a height of, say, 300 pixels as well, and don't forget we need semicolons at the end of each line of CSS. Because there was an error, you see it goes white and then there's this little red squiggly. That's because we didn't put a semicolon. So if I save that, notice the image kind of gets squished because we are setting both the width and height to the same. But if we remove one, or if we actually remove the other one, it'll stay the same, like aspect ratio wise. It won't get squished. But we're going to go ahead and remove the height and just have this for now. Now, say we wanted to make this image here rounded. We can add a different CSS property called border-radius. And then usually we deal in percentages here. We could do a pixel value like 20px. And notice that that kind of adds nice rounded corners to our image here. But if we wanted to make it towards like a circle or oval kind of thing, we can do like 10%. And then if we do that, it kind of like creates different kind of rounded corners. If you see here, like it rounds this side more and this one less because the length is longer than the height, or the width is longer than the height. If we give it like a 50%, it becomes like an oval. And then if we give it like, so yeah, that's one thing. If we give it percentages and the image is not a square, normally it becomes an oval kind of shape. Whereas if we give it a 50px, it just becomes a rounded rectangle. Like, you know, it becomes more of, yeah, the corners become equally rounded versus percentages, as you can see here. These long sides get rounded more than these short sides, just because it's a percentage of the length rather than a standard, like I want to round it by 30 pixels. So that's just a quick note. So that was width and height and border radius. Yeah, this one was a bit of a shorter video, kind of to make up for the previous video, which was quite long. But we basically just covered images, how to get them, how to tell the user, like if the image can't load, tell the user what it was. We can now kind of change the width and height of our images, and we can give them rounded corners, which is pretty neat. Now, in the next video, we are going to be going over, I believe, either links or it was like tables. But we're going to be going over, like, for the next couple of videos, different HTML elements. Images are one type of HTML element, and there's tables that we can make, there's lists, there's links, all different kinds of HTML elements that allow us to add different things into our website. And then, of course, in each of those videos, we will learn the corresponding CSS styling to make those things look good, to position them, to size them, and stuff like that. So, if you happen to miss any of the previous videos in this series, or if you want to see the other ones as they come out, go ahead and check out the playlist linked in the description where I'll be uploading daily. If you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for notifications whenever I post new videos. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.